Morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Friday. Yeah, I love it. 3-day week, right? 4th of July holiday. Friday's already here. The oven is officially on here in the Valley of the Sun. It was my fault. Another thing, I got to take the blame. A couple weeks ago, I said, if this is global warming, I'm going to take it. We've had a great year this year here, and the weather's been so nice. Yeah, well, that's over. 110 degrees plus. Now, today's like 115-ish, but for 3 straight weeks, I don't think we're going to get below 110. I was driving into work, so I'm on the road early. And in the last couple of weeks, I was driving to work, it'd be in the 70s, low 70s, sometimes in the 60s. Yeah, now it's 88, and sometimes today, before I got to the office, it was already in the 90s. So, yeah, it's here. Summertime is here for sure. Get that, you know what, let's face it, this is when everybody leaves Arizona and tries to find somewhere cooler to go. Good luck with that. 800-951-0592, that is our toll-free number. allamericangold.com is the website. Yesterday we had that crazy day with this ADP jobs number, the 10-year note ripping higher, interest rates, mortgage rates, refinance rates, auto loan rates, credit card rates, you name it, everything higher. Today we got the government's number. This one a little more in line with what we were expecting. Unfortunately, it's great for gold and silver are ripping higher. I told you, I think that we're in a good spot here now where all of a sudden higher rates are going to be looked at differently, right? All the higher rates, yet not so good anymore as the 10-year note still above 4%. The 2-year note, the highest in 16 years. And Jason, the bad part is it looks like rates are going higher and potentially a lot higher.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to look like that. And I've been saying, since this inflation started a couple of years ago, that the Fed doesn't have a legitimacy as an organization if they can't stay on, or at least the appearance of staying on top of inflation. So when it really comes down to it, no matter what, we've said how many times that they don't have a good play in this situation that's happened right now with 0% for 2 decades. They have to attack inflation. And it sure looks like the inflation, which I've been saying at the end of this year, is going to start raging again, maybe next year. It sure looks like that's what they're getting ready for, Joe. And if it's going to keep on going, if the inflation is going to keep on going, then the rates have to keep going up.
Yeah, and inside, so the headline jobs number today, 209,000. So remember, yesterday we got almost a $500,000 number, 500,000 jobs number, 209,000. That's still way too many. But it is the lowest number in a while. I mean, maybe I'll have to look, but I want to say it's the lowest number we've seen in a couple of years. But don't quote me on that. This is a June number. Here's where it got interesting. It was where the jobs came from. Because what has been all the job rage has been this leisure hospitality, right? That's your bus boys, your waitresses, your waiters, your bartenders, the people at the hotel pools, right? These generally what we'll call the lower wage jobs and dominating the jobs numbers. Not so in this report. According to the government, 65,000 jobs in health care. That's in line. That's about normal. Government, 60,000. How many of those were IRS agents? I don't even want to know. That's above normal. So that actually made the number higher. And I think a lot of people are like, hey, wait a minute. Man, if the government didn't hire so many people, this number was going to be sub 200,000. Construction, 23,000. And then leisure and hospitality. Jason, only 21,000 jobs in that number. So that is a big change. That is kind of saying, the restaurant industry, one of two things. Hey, we've either hired everybody we need to hire, or sales are starting to soften, right? And are we going to see layoffs? Now, it's only 1 month, but it was an interesting print. Unfortunately, the thing that really mattered, wages, right? Because it doesn't matter. 200,000 jobs, 300,000 jobs, 100,000 jobs. When it matters about inflation, they want to know about the wage number. And, Jason, it was hot again. So just like the ADP number, wages again, way too hot, which means we're getting rate hikes.
I think that's what it looks like, Joe, for sure. So we'll keep watching it, because it really seems like a year or two ago that this was they did a good job. No, this is it. They were talking. Remember the talk about quantitative easing and lowering the rates. Hey, and the printing and the party in the markets. And it doesn't sound like anyone's really talking about lowering rates anymore. Now it's becoming a question of maybe pausing versus how high will they go.
Yeah, boy, that isn't that the truth? By the way, it was the lowest jobs number since December 2020. So again, I guess if you want the silver lining of the number, well, it's the lowest in 2.5 years. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Friday. A quick look here at the markets as I just clicked off the page here. The Dow is down 53 points right now. The Nasdaq or the S&P is unchanged. The Nasdaq's up 35. Gold's up $22 right now, $19.37. Silver's up 40 cents, $23.10. This market update, brought to you by our friends at Y Refi. I got to tell you, probably a good idea when you're looking at diversification. Listen, you can't put all your money into gold and silver. You can, but that's no smarter than having all your money in Wall Street or all your money in housing. It really is important to be diversified, especially in this time, because, as Jason pointed out yesterday, so much of the data, it's I don't want to call it fake, but it's kind of the half-truth. You think about all of the misinformation that's out there now, right? That's the big thing, right? Conspiracy theory and all this other nonsense out there. It's got elements of truth in it, right? And this is what we have in our financial markets. I wish it was different, but it's got elements of truth. The problem is it has a bigger and bigger and bigger proportion of misinformation, cover-up, right? Trying to make it appear better than what it is. I'll give you a great example. Somebody said, well, why do I got to pay a premium on gold? Gold's $19.37. Right? If I go buy Apple stock, I pay what the stock price is. Well, you're just a trained monkey. Right? You buy gasoline, wholesale gasoline isn't $4. It's like $2.50. You don't get to pay that. Wall Street just tricked you, right? You pay the big premium. Believe me, if you paid what Wall Street was worth, gosh, it would be what? You're paying 20 on average. This is average. 20 times more for stocks on average. An Apple stock, you pay even more than that. than what it actually makes. So let's not talk about premium. That's idiotic. You're just untrained. You don't know what you're talking about. But this is why refi is so great. You get 10.25 up to 10.25% return, Jason, and it's fixed. It doesn't matter. Big jobs number, crappy jobs number, high wages, low wages, high rates, low rates. It's fixed. You can turn your income on. You can turn it off. It's compounded. I mean, all that great stuff. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them at 888-YREFI-24. And as all of you know, you got to have at least $50,000 to diversify some of that with YRefi. But, Jason, going back to this jobs number, the unemployment rate, unchanged, right? 3.6%. Now, according to and again, these are these numbers that these guys use. Well, you always got 3% of the population in between jobs. That's their number. So essentially what they're saying is, hey, the unemployment rate really can't go any lower, right? What's the lowest it's been? 3.4? That 3.6, so essentially we're right at the bottom. Even with this low number of wages, they were hoping wages would cool off. They didn't. Up another 0.4% month over month, and say that our average hourly earnings, right, continuing to be a thorn in the side of the government, and then workforce participation rate, Jason, that was also identical to where it's been. So the headline number a little lower, and if you factor in, the government hiring all the IRS agents out, then maybe even below 200,000. But all the other data points inside of it are just saying rates. We need more than one. Put it this way. I think this number, yesterday's number, we need a whole lot more than one more rate hike.
It's what it looks like, Joe. It's what it looks like. It looks like, and let's face it, the people that make these decisions have access to information that they probably don't even put out there. That Joe looks at all the numbers every week. He knows where to go and how to translate. But Joe and I and many others, all we can do is prognosticate. I think there are other indicators that are not for the public's viewing. And it seems to me that the inflation that we've been going through the last couple of years, you look at and we haven't had this kind of inflation since the 70s and 80s. It comes back. It bounces around. There's like a bullwhip effect. It's not a curable situation. I think this is why they've done this slow attack on it, because they don't want the dramatic ups and downs that inflation can do. But I think it's gonna happen to them anyways, Joe. So yeah, the inflation's coming. It's coming back, and just look at the food price. The food prices haven't stopped going up. I was talking to a woman who owns a restaurant, and her restaurants are empty. She's like, well, it's a vacation time. I think that's kind of why it's empty right now. And I was like, well, what if they don't come back after vacation time? She's like, yeah, that's starting to look like maybe that's what's happened. It's like, yeah. And she's trying to talk about the food prices. Like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if next year. I think she was talking about cherries. I was like, yeah, just try double it. Maybe by next year, Joe, another 12 months, that might be doubled again. Food prices. And what are people going to do then?
And it's interesting. I think a lot of people are feeling the same thing here. I know. Early on, I talked about the heat. This is the first summer, really, since COVID started, where everybody's like, "Oh, wow, this is kind of back to the old times." Everyone's cleared out here. The restaurants are empty, a lot emptier than what they've been. And the question's going to be, okay, is that the new reality? Or is everybody going to end up back at the end of the summer? Because what I'm hearing from my contacts in California, even Florida, that the tourists, they're there, but they're not there, right? In other words, they're not like, oh my gosh, we're bursting at the seams, right? We're overloaded. That isn't the case. So it's going to be interesting to see, because again, I think all the signs, especially when it comes to food, say things are continuing. There's no supply. There's no inventory. There's a huge article about silver. And everybody, I know we've heard it. We know supplies are way down. But the China market, and obviously China, they're a huge polluter. They're actually, their solar, I guess, mania has just started to hit full speed. We kind of hit solar mania a few years ago, right? And that was all the rebates, all this and all that. China, this year is the first year where they've seen massive increase in solar, which, of course, is driving a lot of this silver inventory. And again, we're just waiting, I think, for a lot of these prices, to Jason's point. A lot of things that you think may start to settle in are not going to. Gold and silver, they're two of them. They got big inventory problems. On the gold side, we had Turkey sell a bunch of gold. Right now, of course, Turkey's been buying a lot of gold. They've got a currency problem. But if you throw that one country out, countries continue to line up, central banks continuing to pile into the gold market. 8 central banks in May alone bought another 50 metric tons of gold, according to the World Gold Council. And Jason, it's not just countries like China who's been buying. Poland added another 19 tons of gold there. Obviously, China continued to amass their gold. I want to say they added another 16 metric tons, but we had Singapore adding gold, Russia adding gold, India adding gold, the Czech Republic adding gold, Iraq adding gold, right? Jason, it seems like every month now, this list just continues to grow of countries saying, hey, you know what? We're holding too many dollars. Let's get some gold.
Yeah. And we're entering into a phase, I believe, where the markets will show that it's just not so. I don't know how far the markets will fall. I don't think it'll be as dramatic as 2008, but they're going to fall. People are going to have a massive sell-off. And when people start selling off, because as Joe was talking about, well, these there's still people out there on vacations. Yeah, but how are they paying for them? We have record credit card debt. Is that how they're paying for their vacations? Like, well, little Jimmy and little Julie, they want to really go out and have a vacation. We didn't have one last year. Let's just put it on the credit card this year. We'll catch up, right? So a lot of this the vacationing and some of this the business that's going on, the buying, it might be fraudulent. And so you'll look at the gold buying. These countries are saying it very clearly that things are not going to get better soon. I mean, I just was looking down at this. Bank of America is $100 billion in unrealized losses. That's one of the big banks, Joe. $100 billion unrealized losses. How do those regional banks even make ends meet at all?
The amount of outflows out of big banks. This hasn't been the big story, right? We know because outflows are critical to these smaller banks. And what we realized is the real big problem was what I'll call the banks that were big, but not big enough, right? Hey, we had we're under $250 billion of deposits or assets. I'm sorry, of assets, right? We have less than $250 billion in assets, right? When that happens, most of those were top-heavy deposits. In other words, hey, I've got $200 billion in deposits, but 5 customers make up half of it. So they were very susceptible to what happened at Silicon Valley, what happened at Signature Bank. Now the next part is unfolding, which is all of these smaller banks, all of these people rushing to get under the 250,000. The major banks, do you know that they've had almost $1 trillion of outflows at our major banks? And that's people getting under that $250,000. And now all of a sudden, I know the stress test, everybody passes it. Nobody passes. Nobody passes. And here's just the reality now. The next bump in the road is going to be far more painful, and that just makes sense. What happened we live in a boom and bust cycle. Everyone that's just what it is. This is the cycle that our central bank created. Boom and bust. The last bust, right? We had a debt of 6, 7, 8 trillion, right? Now we've got debt of 40 plus trillion. Right. This one is going to be bigger. It's going to be worse. Well, how do you know that, Double? Well, because that's how it's been since 1987. Every bust has been worse than the last one. Every boom, right, has been better than the last one. And this next bust, Jason, I really think it's going to be predicated on two things. We're going to have big problems with commercial real estate at the exact same time that people finally start losing their jobs. And I think that is really going to be what tips this thing. And does it maybe correlate with the Democrats don't want Joe Biden in office anymore? We'll talk about that next. (800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Friday. Before we get to, is it possible that a plan is in the works to get Joe Biden off the ticket by taking the economy down? We'll get to that in a minute. But before we do, yesterday, and what a great special yesterday was. We had cases of Silver Eagles. We had those $20 gold pieces. We bought this estate. I don't have any Silver Eagles left, so you'll notice Silver Eagles back up in price, and now silver's up another 50 cents here on top of that. I have 38 $20 gold pieces left from that estate from yesterday. Here's what I'm going to do. Now, gold's up $22. So here's what I'm going to do. $2,095. There is no volume discount. Remember yesterday you bought 10 or more, you got a $2,075. Let's get these sold. $2,095. We do not have any extra. We have 38 $20 gold pieces, $2,095 to give you an idea. So these are all Liberties. I don't have Saints on sale. The $20 Saint this morning after gold's move here is $2,195. So tomorrow, those $20 gold pieces, these 38 20s, are going up $100. I mean, you can't get better than that. I know but I'm on vacation. It's hot, right? I get it. Take advantage of it. We're not done, though. Now, this is something that we don't have online. We've got 50 rolls of 1921 Morgan dollars. Now, this was the last year. Remember, they stopped minting Morgans in 1904 and then didn't mint them again until 1921. And then, of course, the peace dollar came in 1922. This is the last year of issuance of the Morgan dollar. We have 50 rolls of them. They come in just like Silver Eagles, right? They come in a roll of 20. But, Jason, these aren't your run-of-the-mill Morgan dollars, right? You'll get, you got the really ugly, crappy Morgan and peace dollars. We call those call dollars. We don't sell those here. The dates are all worn out. They're as black as can be. I mean, some of them, believe it or not, bent holes in them, right? They're out there. Those are call dollars. We don't do that. Normally we'll sell at least, the VG pluses. That's kind of where we start. But these are a little better than that.
Yeah, one quick comment on the gold, and then I'm going to talk about these coins, which I have here in Colorado. When Joe says the price on these $20 gold pieces are going to be $100 higher, even if gold were to go down on Monday, I don't see how these $20 gold pieces won't be at least $50 higher, $75 higher. And if gold goes up, you're looking at more than $100. So on those 38 gold pieces, I highly suggest, and we can get those to you very quickly also as well. You can get these aren't, I don't have to have these shipped to me, neither does Joe. We've got these available. So this is a quick turnaround also. Number one, quick turnaround. Number two, the price is just the best. It's the best on these gold pieces. So if you want to pay $100 more on gold pieces next week, then just don't buy the 38 that are available. On the silver pieces, these are all uncirculated. Every roll of these 1921 Morgan dollars are uncirculated. Now, a lot of the rolls were marked BU, and when you go through them, there's a bunch of BUs in there. I don't like to call coins BU if they have a little bit of toning. So most of these are white, brilliant silver pieces. But some of these have a little bit of toning. They're still uncirculated. Toning has nothing to do with circulation. Sometimes silver attracts certain compounds and the color changes a little bit. But the majority of these I would call brilliant uncirculated. None of them I call less than uncirculated. We're pricing them even below AU. So even if any of these happen to be touched by human hands a little bit, and you might want to call it an AU, big deal. These are all super nice. These are show coins. These are the ones, if you're a grandfather, these are the ones you put in the Christmas stockings. These are the ones that you show people, hey, what do you want? Why do you buy silver? This is why. 102-year-old coin is white and brilliant as the day it was minted, Joe.
Yeah, so they're $660 a roll. That's $33. That is below cost on an AU 1921 Morgan. Below on a BU, way below cost on a BU 21 Morgan. So they're $660. That puts us below what most people would sell circulated 21s for. So $660 on the 1921 Morgans, $2,095 on the $20 Liberties. Both of these items, they're just out of sight price-wise. Just great opportunity here at 800-951-0592. Add to your portfolio today. It's a great day to do it. I warned you yesterday that I think kind of the shift here, we've had gold pull off about $150 on the, oh my gosh, wait a minute, the economy's still too hot, inflation's still too hot, rates are going higher. I think we're now at the point where higher rates are actually going to be very detrimental to Wall Street, but not detrimental to gold and silver. We're kind of getting into that phase where, I better start loading more up because things are going to get a lot uglier, I don't know about a lot faster. It's been slower. But Jason and I had this conversation this morning. Are they setting up to get Joe Biden off the ticket? Because we know, it's funny, we know the mainstream media, they hate RFK Jr. as a Democrat, but they don't like Joe Biden that much either, Jason.
Yeah, and getting a weird feeling that because usually the powers that be like Democrats are socialists, and you can get better laws to control the populace through Democrats. Republicans are kind of like stooges that stand around and don't get anything accomplished. They say they're for the average citizen, but they never get anything done. And I get the feeling, Joe, that this economy, I think they were trying to hold on to it through next year and then maybe reelect Biden. But now I'm wondering, it seems to me they just don't want Biden there. And if they don't want Biden there, it's going to be really easy. You let this thing crash now or next year. And I was looking at this press conference with this guy Kirby, this arrogant guy he's starting to take on questions about, Biden Biden's son, in 2017 talking to the Chinese, and he walked away, left the press secretary lady to hold the bag, and she couldn't stop getting the from the controlled media attacking Biden and his son. Something's changing, Joe.
Eight 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Friday. The huge sale, $20 gold pieces, $2,095. That is $100 off. This comes out of that estate. This is what was left over from yesterday. And then these 1921 mortgages. What an opportunity to buy really high quality 1921. The vast majority of these are uncirculated. As Jason said, these are not every single one of them, but most of them. These things are white, shiny, 102-year-old coins that obviously haven't really seen the light of day, haven't been manhandled, weren't used, right? They weren't being slapped down on the counter to buy things at $660 a roll, well below cost on these 1921 mortgages. Mix and match as you see fit. We have 38 $20 gold pieces, 50 rolls of those mortgages at 800-951-0592. Now, it is interesting. Has this not played out maybe like they had hoped? As most people know, a lot of Democrats and especially the media think Joe Biden's too old. And let's face it, he's too old. Sorry. And cognitively, he has shown that he's too old, right? I mean, every week it's something. And the economy, though, really, and I said this to Jason, I go, really? If you just said the economy, I mean, now granted, not most of it, none of it is doing, but neither here nor there. It's kind of like a quarterback of the football team. If they're winning, he gets the credit. If they're losing, he gets the blame, and it may or may not be his fault. Well, are they wanting him out? And there's one surefire way to make it happen. Because the one thing that they have a problem with is, well, gosh, we don't like him, and yeah, he's too old, but the economy's not bad. Right? I mean, really, Jason, the Dow's right where it was when he started office. I mean, unemployment rate, look at the number today. It's the worst jobs number since 2020, and it was 209,000. The unemployment rate's at 3.6%. I think that would you be surprised if all of a sudden, say, the fourth quarter, the economy starts to tumble? And then, say, the first quarter of next year, the R word starts coming back out, and then maybe is that a catalyst to get, I don't know, Gavin Newsom or somebody that, obviously they don't want Robert Kennedy Jr., but, a Gavin Newsom or somebody like that to all of a sudden emerge and convince Joe Biden maybe not to run for re-election?
Yeah, all you would need next year is a military helicopter crashing in a sandstorm in Iran, and then you have Jimmy Carter, because that was kind of the end of him. remember the rescue attempt on the hostages that was it for 400 something days, and he sent the helicopter in and it went down. Are we looking at the exact same thing with Biden, or they run him out? Jimmy Carter at least was able to get renominated. I think he was the last presidential candidate running for re-election that had challengers in his party. Once again, another similarity to Jimmy Carter. It's the last time it happened.
And it's funny. Why are all these similarities to the 70s? Right? We got the inflation, right? Very much like the 70s. The economy was pretty good for a while. Of course, this is when we had the big gold run, right? When did gold really run? The late 70s, right? And I think we're getting ready for a big run for gold and a big run for silver, and it would be interesting if this economy falters. And again, think about, Ronald Reagan, right? Is Donald Trump kind of a Ronald Reagan? They seemingly can't stop this guy. They indict him. They press him on charges. And of course, like Gavin or Ron DeSantis and these other guys in the polls, Trump's killing these guys. And are the Democrats like, wait a minute, we don't know that Biden can, and again, beat, and I'm using quotes here for those of you on radio, that Biden beat Trump. Could he maybe not be able to do it again, and maybe we got to get somebody else? I don't know. Listen, that's as good of a plan as any, as I've heard.
And guess who ran against Jimmy Carter in 1980 in the primaries? Ted Kennedy.
What? Ted Kennedy.
Ted Kennedy ran against him in 1980 primaries. It's almost like they just want you, they're almost shoveling it to see if anyone can remember this stuff, Joe.
Yeah. Too many similarities for me. Jason brought this up to me this morning because he was saying, hey, I was watching one of, these press conferences, and it's, it's just full of the lefty media. And even the lefty media it's like they're getting restless here. And all of a sudden now, I'm talking about rates way higher than I thought they were going to be. And I don't see this is going to end badly. And I guess if you're the Democrats and you don't want Joe Biden, the sooner it ends badly, the better. Because then maybe you can get somebody else to get the nomination.
There might be a whole lot of Trump panic going on in the Democrats. It almost feels like Trump panic, and they just don't feel like Biden can hold up to that, so let's get somebody else.
I know the Rhino Republicans are panicked about Trump. I think you're right. Yep. The Democrats can be panicked about Trump as well. Patriot Radio News Hour. We don't normally get political on this show, but today it's a Friday. Why the heck not? We'll be back after the break. (800) 951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour, wrapping it up for the week here. The $20 gold pieces, the $20 Liberties at $2,095. There are 26 left. There should be zero. That's how good of a price it is. $2,095 on the 1921 Morgans. These are all uncirculated. From almost AU, some of the BU, way below cost here, $660. And unfortunately, we've only got 36 rolls of those left. And both of these, it's one of these things, we can't get more. Sometimes we can. Sometimes we'll make a few calls. No. When these are gone, they're gone. This is all there is at 800-951-0592. And Jason, another one of these, man, it's just so tough right now. Bankruptcy filings. We've been watching this. They've been skyrocketing, right? These are levels on the bankruptcy filings that we haven't seen in a long time, right? Going back towards the end of the financial crisis that was, 2009, 2010, right? So kind of at the tail end of it, we're kind of getting back to those levels as Chapter 11 bankruptcy filings continue to pile up, and they're saying that credit now becoming a much bigger problem for people that are on the brink. And Jason, I think this is, again, as we watch these rates, the 10-year note today, still well above 4%, 404. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to go higher just because of what's going to happen in the Treasury auctions starting at the end of this month. Jason, this is going to be a pretty easy one for us to figure out here, that as credit tightens, as rates rise. We're going to see more and more companies struggle. Obviously, commercial real estate's going to be a problem. And I think it's pretty safe to assume sooner or later these job firings that Jay Powell so desperately wants, they're going to show up sooner or later.
They're going to show up, and later this year and next year is, I think, the timing of it, Joe. It's starting to look more and more like this thing's getting ready to happen next. I knew the severity of this market downward turn I knew it was going to be within 2 years, but now it's starting to smell a lot more like later this year and next year now. So the timeline's been moved up, Joe.
Well, for Jason's moved it. I had to move my timeline back, right? I thought we'd already be here. Jason was always saying, I don't know, I think we can see rate hikes for the whole rest of the year. But it does look like that things are getting worse. The spread between short-term treasuries and long-term treasuries, huge blowout there as well. So these are all factors that we have to look at. And Jason, wow. Jason just went and got one of these 21 Morgans. It is so bright that it's hard for me to even see. If you're on YouTube, you can see, man, that thing looks like it's brand new. Rolls of 21 Morgans below cost at $660. $20 Liberties, whatever's left, $100 off. $2,095 at 800-951-0592. Jason and I are coming right back with the Half Empty Cup.